All right. So there is, a right way to learn. All right, or to come up in the truth, learning under men. All right, if you sincerely desire that. So before I get started, I want to give all praises, glory, infinite honors unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash, and double honors to your apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught me the truth and grew well, and peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the hopefully elect, as well as those that believe in the gospel and be endured to the end, the Lord willing. All right. Now, like I said earlier, it's pretty much what the title of this lesson is. All right. There is a right way to learn the truth. All right. There is a right way to come up under men. All right. Now, the first step in order for you to do so, is becoming a blank canvas, man. All right. You have to put off those things that you have learned in the world. All right. And ultimately, as you come out, all right, you watching lessons, as you're learning, all right, certain things won't be as offensive to you, all right, or it won't warp your judgment, all right, as much, all right. So you have to, have that mindset of being a blank canvas, because we all thought, brothers can attest and account for this. We all thought that, we were on a certain type of level, right? We all thought that we actually knew or understood something, prior to coming across the men of the Lord, man. All right, prior to coming across the prophets, right? So what you knew in the world versus what you would learn in the truth, okay, is on a whole nother level, man. But in order to take heed to that, in order to, men telling you this, you have to become a blank canvas. All right. Now, in this lesson, I want to kind of go into, learning the right way. All right. Because, the Lord has set up, teachers, all right, prophets, elders, apostles, all right, across Great Millstone in order to do what? Feed the flock, all right, teach the sheep, you see, but the right way, all right. Now, we're going to start off in the book of Sirach, all right, chapter 6, verse 32, and I'll read it in the KJV later, but I just want to grab this in the GNT. It says, Sirach chapter 6 and 32 in the GNT, it says, "My child, you can learn if you want to. You can be clever if you are determined to be. If you are willing to listen, you will learn and become wise," right? So the first thing you have to do is be willing to listen, all right? You have to have the want, all right, through faith to, actually listen and take heed that, hey, these, you might not believe it, at this very moment, but, hey, these possibly could potentially, all right, be the men of the Lord. And sometimes it takes a while, excuse me, it takes a while to actually understand and gravitate towards that, hey, man, these men, even though they, men that look like me or whatnot, these, may potentially be the Lord's men, all right? And, through, over time, all right, these things actually, you grow, and as prophecy unfolds and things come to pass, and you see, that what these men are saying is true, then you start to do what? Gravitate more and take more and more heed to what you're being taught, all right, to the words that you're being taught, man, all right? But you have to be willing, all right, willing to listen, willing to learn, right? Like, something I always tell, certain brothers, different things, brothers that I came in with, we would always remember we were told to not believe what we were being told and go, do some research, look it up on our own time, right? And you come back and, you find out those things are true, you see? Or you've already been searching and you come across the prophets And everything that they're saying, they line it up with the scriptures. You see? That's just how the Spirit of the Lord works. But, you have to be willing to listen and willing to learn, man. All right, as that blank canvas, Can't let the things that you already knew, the things that you might have known in the world, obstruct your vision from what, you're learning now. When it comes to dealing sincerely in the truth, man, if you sincerely want to learn. Okay, now I'm going to go to the KJV. It's Sirach 6:32. It says, "My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught." Right? And I was talking to a brother yesterday, and kind of explaining to him, like, hey man, we all had to be taught, all right? We all had to learn from somebody. You see, Paul learned from somebody. Even Yahushua was taught, man. When his with Mary and Joseph in Luke the 2nd chapter, when they were traveling and they found themselves to be without Yahushua, and they went to find him. Well, what was Yahushua? Amongst the elders, asking questions, getting understanding, man. You see? So if Yahushua had to be taught, why wouldn't you? You have to be taught by spiritual men. You see? But it says, "My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught. And if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding." You see? So you can't receive understanding by teaching, all right, by debating. No, you have to receive understanding by hearing, okay? Like the saying goes in the world, the Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a specific reason. It's a specific reason. You have an ear on one side of your head and another ear on the other side of your head. All right? And you have 1 mouth because it's important to do more listening, all right, than talking, man. More listening, less talking. All right? Now it says, "If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. And if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise." You see? Bowing your ear is what? Taking heed. Okay? It says, "Stand in the multitude of the elders and cleave unto him that is wise, and be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee." You see, and you do that by asking questions, man. You have to ask questions. You have to, search out these things, on your own. It's not a, I gotta be taught everything. Some things, you might go look up a lesson on it, right? Find videos, go, like brother say, go GMS it in the YouTube bar. GMS Revelation 11 breakdown. You can find things like that. GMS archives, certain things, man. You see? It says, "And if thou seest a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him, and let thy foot wear the steps of his door." You see? And what's that? Betimes goes into, ultimately being too late. If thou see a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him. All right? Get that tongue before it's too late, man. You see? So you can get that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding, before the Lord closes the doors. You see? So we're going to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 1. All right. Now it says, "To keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Most High, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools." Right? I'm going to just read it out, and I'm going to read it in the NLT. I'm going to read 1 and 2. Right? Then I'm going to read it in the NLT. Now it says, "For they consider not that they do evil," right? So that's why it's important, the first step in learning, all right, is to actually listen, all right, hear, get the understanding of what, grasp the concepts, all right, of what's being taught, or what's being spoken about. You You have to grasp the concepts. If you can't grasp it, then you're not understanding it. You're not receiving it. You're not learning, right? God says, "Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before the Most High. For the Most High is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore, let thy words be few." You see, you have to let your words be few when you're trying to get the understanding. Now, it's different when you come up on a level after a amount of time, some years, all right, to, speak, you get on a level to teach, right? That's different. But when you're coming in as a, like it says in 1 Peter 2, I might get that next, as a newborn babe, all right, you have to be taught. You have to be on a level of more listening, less talking, man. All right, now in reading the NLT, it says, "As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. It is evil to make mindless offerings to the Most High," man. All right, so that's why you keep your ears open and your mouth shut. You see, because what? You get a sacrifice of fools. It says, verse 2, "And don't make rash promises, and don't be hasty in bringing matters before God. After all, God is in heaven, and you are here on earth. So let your words be few." All right, still being in that mindset, of what? Letting your words be few. Scripture speak about vain jangling, man. All right, babbling. And these things are true. It's a lot. Hold on. Get some water. All right. So let me see. I got another precept or two. I want to get that Peter. Let's see. 1 Peter 2. Yep, it's 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "Wherefore laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envies and all evil speakings, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word." The sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby. You see? So you have to become as a newborn babe, right? Fresh out of the womb, a child doesn't know, a newborn babe doesn't know anything. It has to be nourished, all right? It has to, receive the right nutrients, which is, mostly through the milk, all right? And when we refer to this as, usually the milk of the scriptures, see? You can't be new, all right, or sin, just learning of the truth and coming out and, trying to get the deep breakdowns, right? You have to desire the sincere milk, all right? It says in the NLT, "Like newborn babes, you must crave pure spiritual milk so that you will grow into a full experience of salvation. Cry out for this nourishment," you see? So as newborn babes, man, you have to desire the sincere milk, man. All right? Things that is easy for us to grasp, it's hard for the world to grasp. And if you can't grab these simple things of, the Lord not, case in point, the Lord not dealing with these other nations, all right? Babylon is going to be destroyed. The Lord is only going to save a remnant of the elect. These are milk things, man. Okay? I believe that was it. Yeah, that was it. Let me see what else I had. Something quick. Yep, and I'll end it off in Acts 17 and 11. This Acts 17 and 11. I think this is the Church of Berea, I believe. Yeah, it says Acts 17 and verse 11. It says, "These were more noble than those in Thessalonica." All right, I was just speaking of the Church of Berea. It says, "In that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. Right? You read in the NLT, it says, and the people of Berea were more open-minded than those in Thessalonica, and they listened eagerly to Paul's message. Right? The key thing is what? They listened. Okay? Eagerly. All right? They were looking forward to being taught. You see? My son, if thou wilt be taught, right? Thou shalt bow down ear. It says they listened eagerly to Paul's message. They searched the scriptures day after day to see if Paul and Silas were teaching the truth. And that's what you know, the mindset of a sincere believer, you know, trying to get the understanding, trying to learn, you know. Take notes, man. Write down precepts. Write down brothers breaking down the precepts, right? You watching a video, shouldn't just be watching 5 videos in a row with, you know, you haven't wrote down any notes, man. You know, you're not going to remember what to search and what to go look up. You know, you might hear a brother say something, and you pause it, you write it down, and then you play it, you keep playing it. You know? Things to, you know, food for thought. You know? But there is a right way to learn the scriptures, all right, to come up in the truth, you know, if you're sincere. So, you know, with that, and call Haloyim La, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, or HaKodash. The bonus once again to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, Barbarakim, Alabakar. Shalom.